Barter Island is the kind of place that feels like the edge of the world. The Arctic wind never stops. The ice shelf creaks like an old ship, and the nearest living soul is 100 miles away. That isolation was supposed to be the point. My job was to monitor polar bear activity for the Wildlife Service, log sea ice patterns, and transmit my data back once a week. Simple, routine. Until the night I tuned the shortwave. I'd brought the radio more for comfort than anything. Something to break the silence when the wind outside rattled my cabin. At first, all I caught was static, but on the third night, a strange rhythm pulsed through the noise. Short bursts, then long. I thought maybe Morse code, but it didn't translate into anything coherent. I wrote it down anyway. The next night, it repeated. Same rhythm, but stretched, distorted, almost like a voice caught in static. I leaned closer, adjusting the dial, and then, just beneath the hiss, I swore I heard screaming. Long, ragged, metallic screams that rose and fell like a tide. My scalp prickled. I killed the radio and sat in the dark, heart hammering. But it gets worse. The following evening, I couldn't resist. I turned it on again. The sound was waiting, louder now. Screams twisted into something inhuman, yet painfully human all the same. I checked my charts. Where was this signal coming from? The receiver was picking it up strong, but it wasn't offshore as I expected. No, the source was under me, directly beneath the ice shelf my cabin stood on. I barely slept. Every groan of the ice outside felt like an echo of those voices. Now check this out. By the fifth night, I stopped pretending I wasn't obsessed. I recorded the transmission and played it back. Headphones clamped tight. That's when it changed. No longer garbled. No longer faceless. The screams folded into words I knew too well. Help me. My blood went cold. Because the voice wasn't just familiar. It was mine. The cadence, the panic, even the rasp when breath hitched in the throat. It was me. I yanked the headphones off, stumbling back so hard I knocked over a chair. The recording still played, my voice looping over and over, begging in tones of absolute desperation. I should have packed my gear and trekked inland. I knew that, but every rational thought drowned under the weight of one question. Why is my voice coming from under the ice? Now pay attention to this part. By dawn, I had a shovel in hand. The radio still hissed behind me in the cabin, whispering with that endless plea. The snow crunched under my boots as I crossed to the shelf. I picked a spot where the signal spiked strongest and drove the shovel down. The ice cracked and splintered with each strike. My breath smoked in the air, frantic, uneven, and then clear as day. No static at all. The voice rose directly beneath me. Don't stop. I'm right here. The sound wasn't coming from the radio anymore. It was rising through the ice itself, vibrating up the shovel, into my bones. I kept digging, because whatever was down there, it was me. Flying over Alaska at night always feels like crossing into another world. No roads, no glow from cities, just black wilderness stitched with stars. My destination was a tiny village I'd flown into a dozen times before. 30 people, maybe less. The kind of place where everyone waves when you taxi in, even in the dead of winter. So when the runway lights blinked alive below me, I smiled, a welcome signal. Someone down there had heard me on approach. Man, was I wrong? I touched down smoothly, taxied to the end of the strip, and waited for the familiar figures to approach. No one came. The air was still. My engine the only sound. I killed it, and silence pressed in like a weight. The houses along the edge of the airstrip glowed faintly with lantern light. I expected doors to open, kids to spill out excited about mail or candy I sometimes brought, but the houses stayed closed. Too closed. But that's not all. I walked to the nearest cabin. The door wasn't locked. Inside, the table was set, stew steaming in bowls, as if dinner had been interrupted just minutes before. The wood stove crackled, fire strong and steady. Jackets hung neatly on hooks, boots lined up by the door. but no people. The next cabin was the same. And the next, every single house. Silent, warm, waiting, not abandoned. Interrupted. By the time I reached the last row, my pulse was hammering. That was when I found the tracks. They cut across the snow in a broad line. Dozens of pairs of boots, maybe the whole village, walking together into the tundra. No breaks, no stragglers. Just a single, purposeful direction. I should have radioed for help. Should have started my plane back up and left. But curiosity gnawed at me. If they needed help, if something had driven them out here, maybe I could, save them? I don't know. I followed. The tracks stretched for half a mile, crunching beneath my boots. The night sky shimmered green with aurora. The only sound my own breathing. The prints looked fresh, hours old, at most. My flashlight beam swung back and forth, catching the frost sparkle. And then, suddenly, they ended. Not faded, not buried. Ended. The last few steps curved sideways, joining others until they formed a ring. A perfect, unbroken circle pressed into the snow. Inside the circle, nothing. No scuffle, no blood, no clue. Just smooth ice glinting under the aurora. I stood there, shivering harder than the cold could explain. My light trembled over the ring again and again. It was too precise, too deliberate. Then, behind me, the horizon went dark. I turned. The runway lights, my only anchor back to civilization, snapped off in unison. The village vanished into black, swallowed whole by the night. The aurora pulsed overhead, brighter now, flickering in time with something I could almost mistake for breathing. The silence deepened until I could hear the ice itself shift beneath me. The circle at my feet seemed larger suddenly, shadows stretching outward, reaching. I told myself to run, to get back to the plane, to get out. But the snow around the circle whispered when the wind passed, and for a split second it sounded like voices, dozens of them calling my name. I haven't moved since, because if I step forward, I know exactly where my footprints will end. I thought Alaska would be breathtaking. I signed up for the glacier hike to prove something to myself, to feel small in a vast, beautiful way. I never expected to feel hunted. There were 9 of us, plus a guide named Aaron. He was the kind of outdoorsman you trusted, instantly. The type who made you believe he'd walk these paths blindfolded. For the first few hours, everything was fine. White peaks stretching endless, the crunch of our crampons biting into the ice. Then the weather turned. The fog rolled in first, swallowing the horizon. Snow whipped sideways, erasing depth until the world became a flat sheet of blinding white. Aaron raised his hand, shouting something I couldn't hear over the wind. We huddled close. When the storm finally eased, he was gone. Not just gone, erased. His footprints ended halfway across the snowfield, like someone had cut them clean away. Maybe he went ahead, someone muttered, but their voice trembled. That was when we noticed the other prints, circling us, thousands of them, all around our huddle, stamped deep into the snow. They weren't there before the storm. None of us had seen or heard a thing. Everyone started shouting, calling for Aaron, for help, for anything, but the wind only carried our voices away. We tried moving, south, toward where we thought the ranger station was, step by step, heads down, fighting the cold. But when we paused to catch our breath, the prints were there again, circling, closer. Then Melissa disappeared. One moment she was beside me, her red parka brushing mine. The next, her rope tether hung slack, trailing into empty snow. No sound, no struggle, just absence. Her footprints appeared seconds later, walking in a slow, deliberate circle around us. Panic fractured the group. Some screamed, some prayed. One guy bolted into the white and vanished almost instantly. His prints joined Melissa's, then Aaron's. We kept moving, though none of us knew where. My legs burned, lungs raw from the cold air. Each time we stopped, more footprints appeared. The missing ones never screamed, never called back, just walked their endless loops. But it gets crazier. Night fell too quickly, shadows swallowing what little horizon remained. Our headlamps cast shaky tunnels of light, illuminating fresh prints forming at the edge of our group. Watching the circles build felt like drowning in numbers, too many to count, too precise to be chance. There were only 3 of us left when we stumbled into a shallow depression, trying to use the walls for shelter. The snow was too quiet there. I could hear my own blood rushing in my ears. That was when I realized none of the footprints were ours. Every track belonged to the ones who'd gone missing. The loops overlapped endlessly, weaving patterns I couldn't decipher, closing tighter with every breath. I stared at them until my vision blurred, until my headlamp flickered low, and then I saw it. Melissa's face in the snow. Not her body, not her ghost. Her face pressed into the white, as if she'd leaned down and left an imprint. Her lips were moving. The others didn't notice. They were too busy whispering prayers, too busy keeping their eyes shut, but I watched her mouth form words I couldn't hear. When I leaned closer, the snow shifted beneath me, and another set of footprints joined the circle. Thanks for listening. Now close your eyes and sleep.